Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 4 of The Suitcase Kid by Jacqueline Wilson, continuing from page 73. L is for lake. The garden in Larkspur Lane has got a lake. Well, not a proper lake. It's really a round brick goldfish pond, but it's a magnificent lake for radish. We go there nearly every day after school, even though the mulberries are finished now. We've started to explore the garden properly. Once we thought we saw a face at the window, and we had to run like mad. We didn't go back for several days, walking quickly past the gate without even looking in, but we missed the garden badly. Radish jumped over the gate by herself, so I had to go after her. I wanted to stay close to the mulberry tree, but Radish found a crazy paving path and followed it round a corner behind a hedge, and there were 3 mossy steps down into another garden. The lawn was long and lush there too, right up past Radish's ears, and if I crouched down at her level I couldn't see the lake until we were right on top of it. I don't think I've ever seen Radish so excited. She loves her dips and diving sessions in the bathroom at Mum's place. There's no proper lock on the door at Dad's, and there's a gap underneath the bath where the spiders live, so Radish doesn't like playing there, but the lake was pure paradise by comparison. She wanted to wade right in straight away, but I kept her paddling cautiously at the edge in case it got too deep. We both got a shock when an orange whale suddenly rose up out of the water and nibbled Radish's paws. I snatched Radish out of the way. We've done the story of Jonah and the whale at school, and I didn't fancy the idea of gutting a goldfish to retrieve my Radish. But she didn't seem too bothered by the fish. I looked very carefully at their mouths. They just opened and shut as if they were blowing harmless kisses. They didn't seem to have teeth. Still, maybe they could suck at Radish and then swallow her down whole. I decided Radish had better go boating. I found various big leaves, but as soon as I stood her on board the leaves, they started sinking. I tried collecting twigs, but I needed something to stick them all together. I snaffled some sellotape from the kitchen drawer at Mum's place and stuck the twigs together the next day and made quite a good little raft, but Radish didn't seem too happy on it. It tipped about too much. I was scared she'd sail right out into the middle of the lake and then slide in under the water out of her depth. She needed a proper boat, not a raft. I sidled up to Graham after tea the next day. "Hey, Graham," I said, smiling at him. He blinked a bit behind his glasses. We've barely spoken to each other ever since my mum's lived in this place. He generally makes himself scarce in his room with his computer. He's clever and gets a lot of extra homework. The baboon calls him the boy wonder. I don't like the way he says it. He doesn't seem to think that much of Graham. He's dotty about Katie, and he cares a lot about Paula too, though he's always nagging at her for wearing too much makeup and staying out late. But he often makes these snide remarks about Graham. Graham doesn't say anything back. Graham hardly ever says anything very much. "Graham, you haven't got a toy boat, have you? I mean, I know you're too old for toys now, but did you used to have one?" Graham shook his head. "I made myself one with a second-hand Meccano set once." "Did you? Did it float okay?" "No, it's metal, so it wouldn't float." "Well, then it was a pretty stupid boat, wasn't it?" I said, disappointed. "What does float, Graham? I've tried wood, but it's not right." "Cork." "Cork? What's that?" "Oh, I know, like in the top of a bottle. But it wouldn't be big enough. What else floats?" "Rubber." I shook my head, thinking about the eraser in my pencil case. "Still too small. Come on, Graham, what else?" "Plastic." I thought hard. I went back to the living room. I borrowed one of the baboon's tapes, making sure no one was looking. I tried floating the plastic case in the bath. It did okay, but as soon as I tried to launch Radish on it, they both sunk. It needed to be bigger. A video case. Aha! The next day after school, Radish sailed the good ship Video from one side of the lake to the other. She had the sail up and stood on the sun deck, her black eyes bright with bliss. M is for my mate Graham. Mum still said I couldn't go back to Dad's. Dad got onto his solicitor. We had to have another family counselling session. It was the same lady, the one with the mummy doll and the daddy doll, and the bricks to make House A and House B. "Hello, Andrea. How's Radish?" she said. I just shrugged, but I was impressed that she'd actually remembered Radish's name. Mum and Dad ranted on and on. I didn't say much at all. Neither did Radish. The lady kept looking in my direction and asking me what we thought. We shrugged so often our shoulders ached. It was quite good fun hearing Mum slagging off Carrie and Zen and Crystal, and it was quite good fun hearing Dad slagging off the baboon, and Paula and Graham and Katie, but it was no fun at all hearing them slagging off each other. I started to get my sore throat back, and I felt sick, and I had a pain in my tummy. I went off to the toilet down the corridor to see if that might help the pain. I crept back and listened for a bit outside the door. "How do you think Andrea's coping with all this?" said the lady. "It's awful for the poor little lamb," said Mum. "Yes, it's really unsettling her," said Dad. "Though when she's been with me a few days, she calms down, and by the end of the week she's almost her old happy self. That's because she knows she can come back to me soon. That's absolute rubbish. The poor kid's been missing me dreadfully. She says so herself. Have there been any behaviour problems at all? Asked the lady. I tensed a little. She's always fine with me. We get on like a house on fire, always have done. It's just that the school says that she's rather withdrawn and isn't doing very well at her lessons. What do you mean withdrawn? She's always been very outgoing and she's got heaps of friends. And she's extremely bright, nearly always top of the class. Yes, of course, but she has had quite a lot to cope with recently. I nodded bitterly behind the door. Children in these circumstances often develop worrying little habits which show they're under stress. They get whiny and demanding. They bite their nails. They often wet the bed. Cheek, I whispered. I do not wet my rotten old beds. Sometimes they start stealing, but it's not as serious as it sounds. It's simply a way of looking for affection, taking a few treats because they feel very hard done by. Oh dear, said Mum, her voice catching. You see, the thing is, Andrea has started taking a few things recently. What? I whispered. I haven't. I'm not a thief. What are you on about, Mum? Well, Andrea's never stolen anything when she's with me, so it just shows she wants her dad. It's not really stealing, and she takes such silly things she can't possibly want. It's not as if she helps herself to money or chocolates or anything like that, said Mum, sounding nearly in tears. I haven't said anything to her, but I've been getting really worried. It started off with her taking my sellotape, and then she took one of Bill's cassettes. I knew she doesn't like his music, so I thought she was just trying to be annoying. But then she took Katie's video case. That's what's really puzzled us. She doesn't like that video, the Watch with Mother one. The Andy Pandy puppets get on her nerves, but she didn't take the video, just the case. What in the world would she want the case for? It doesn't make sense. I stuck my tongue out at the door. It made perfect sense. Perhaps she just wanted to annoy Katie, said the lady. Perhaps, said Mum. She certainly doesn't get on with her. They're always fighting. She fights a lot with Zen and Crystal too, said Dad. But if only Andrea could be with us for longer, then I'm sure she'd put down roots and we'd be like one big happy family, especially when the new baby's here. She needs to be with me, said Mum. She can't cope with the idea of a new stepsister. She's talked about it to me. Yet she's already having to cope with 5 ready-made siblings, said the lady. You can't expect Andrea to get on with them. She doesn't want to be with them. She doesn't want to be with your new partners. She simply wants to be with you two. I nod, clutching Radish. And of course that's not possible. It is. I wonder where Andrea's got to. I better go and look for her. I take my cue and go back into the room. They all three give me big false smiles. I don't smile back. I still don't say anything. They think they've sussed me out, but they know nothing. And they're wrong about my new brothers and sisters, as a matter of fact. I don't think much of Zen, but Crystal's okay. She can be quite sweet sometimes. I detest and despise little super mouse Katie, but Paula's funny, though she gets narked with me when I use her drying tights as a slide for Radish. But the best one of all is Graham. We're now mates. He kept out of the way as usual for a few days, and then he suddenly waylaid me on the stairs. I've got something in my room for you, he muttered. It was a boat. He'd made me a real boat, a real little Radish-sized boat out of pieces of wood carefully nailed together and then painted. There's a real sail made from an old hanky and a little red ribbon flag on top. This one floats, said Graham. I've tried it out in the bath, and it'll take 1 passenger easily. Oh, Graham! I gave him a big hug. He went very pink and his glasses misted over. It's a lovely boat. It must have taken you ages. Why did you do it for me? Because I like the way you keep bashing Katie, said Graham, grinning. I can't stick her either. She always used to get onto me and tease me and muck up my stuff. Now she leaves me alone because she's got you to plague. Yeah, it's not fair, and I can't ever get away from her. I considered, my head on one side. It's awful sharing a room with her. Tell you what, Graham, I could come in here with you sometimes, couldn't I? Oh, this is too small for 2 people. What with my computer and everything? Graham stammered, blinking anxiously. It's okay. I've got my own secret place where I go, actually. The bathroom. No, much, much better than the bathroom. I go there after school. That's where I sail my boat. Thanks ever so much, Graham. Here, we're mates now, aren't we, you and me? Yes, okay, if you like, said Graham. I do like, and so does Radish. She likes the video vessel very much, but she adores her real sailing boat. She'd sail the lake all day long if I let her. N is for night. Katie keeps me awake half the night. She won't have the light out for a start. Well, she'll switch the main light off, but she's got this little china lamp in the shape of a toadstool, with all these dinky rabbits and squirrels perched on little china chairs inside. Radish squeezed through the little door and tried to make friends, but they didn't want to know. The lamp glows all night long. And then Katie has her own torch, and she nearly always has her television on as well. She turns the sound down low, but the picture goes on flickering. The only way I can find a bit of proper dark is right under the bedclothes, and then I nearly suffocate. Switch that stupid set off. It's my telly, it's my bedroom. I can do what I want. I'll tell Mum. I'll tell my dad. I want to go to sleep. Well, I want to stay awake. Look, I'm turning it off. So, tough titty, I said, jumping out of bed and switching off the set. And I'm turning it on, so tough titties with knobs on, said Katie, bouncing out of bed and switching it straight back on. She likes it when we have these long arguments late at night. She likes to stay wide awake. Sometimes I have a bad dream and I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and I look over at Katie's bed and her eyes are nearly always open, big and blue and unblinking. It's not that she can't go to sleep. She fights terribly hard not to. She almost never lies down comfortably. She sits up with all her pillows propped behind her. She eats biscuits and drinks a lot of water, so she has to keep nipping along to the bathroom. She even wears an old Angora jumper under her pyjamas. It's so tight and tickly, it does a splendid job keeping her awake. You aren't half a baby, Katie. 10 years old and scared of the dark. Oh, I'm scared, am I? Said Katie, and she touched the volume control on the television. She was watching one of those awful nightmare films, and just the sound of the creepy music made me put my head back under the covers. It was my mate Graham who helped me suss things out. He gets a bit fussed and fidgety if I barge into his bedroom, but we sometimes have these little chats on the stairs now. He used to share a bedroom with Katie when they were both little, so he knows what it's like. So, she didn't have a television then. She used to make me play all these games with her, and then we'd have to take turns telling ghost stories, and whenever I fell asleep, she'd pinch me, and once she hit me so hard with her torch, I had a black eye in the morning. And I got into trouble with Dad for it because he said I was a right little wimp if my kid sister could get the better of me in a scrap, Graham said, sighing. Doesn't she get tired like other people? Yes, of course she does. Haven't you seen the dark circles under her eyes? And she sometimes falls asleep at school. So why won't she go to sleep at night, like everyone else? Because she's scared. But she makes herself scared, watching all those horrid videos. No, that's to keep her awake. She's scared of going to sleep. I stared at him. What's there to be scared of in going to sleep? Graham fidgeted quite a bit. He screwed up his face several times and took his glasses off and polished them. She's just scared, that's all. But what of? Graham's eyes looked very strange and bare and pink without his glasses. They blinked a lot. When our mum died, they told us she'd gone to sleep, he said, swallowing. Paula and I knew she'd been ill, and then we knew she was dead. But Katie was just this little squirt, and she didn't know what dead meant. So they said it was just like going to sleep. They meant to be kind, but she got very scared of going to sleep after that. I see. Andy, what? Don't tease her about it, eh? I mean, I know she's a right pain. She's my own sister, and yet I can't stick her, but all the same, don't go on about it. I won't. And I didn't. That night I didn't even moan when she kept bumbling about the bedroom, hour after hour. I settled down and went to sleep myself. I woke up at about midnight. I looked over. Katie was still awake, sitting bolt upright, staring at the television screen. Katie, I reached out and touched her. She was icy cold. Hey, why don't you switch that off and come in my bed for a cuddle, eh? She paused. There was a little silence, and then she gave a sniff. What on earth makes you think I want to come in your bed, Andy Pandy? You're so big and fat I'd get squashed flat in 5 minutes. I still didn't tease her, but I didn't half want to. O is for old people. I don't like old people. They really get on my nerves. Miss Maynard is old. She's my headmistress. I had to go and see her the other day. She started off being quite matey, and she even offered me one of those special toffees, but she started in on me. It's just not good enough, Andrea. Your schoolwork's gone to pieces this year. You don't hand your homework in on time, or you don't even bother to do it. You don't have your PE kit for your lessons. You don't bring a proper sick note when you've been off school. What's going on, My teeth got jammed in the huge wodge of toffee, so I could only manage to urgle in response. Anyway, how could I explain properly? I'm so busy flitting from my mum's place to Dad's and back again that I leave half my stuff behind. I hand Mum my PE stuff to go in the wash, and then I forget to take it with me to Dad's. It's no use expecting Carrie to do it. She washes, but she doesn't even iron anything, and I get teased when I'm at Dad's because my school blouses are all crumpled, and once they went shocking pink because Carrie shoved my stuff in with Zen's scarlet sweater. Carrie didn't even say she was sorry. She said she thought the pink shirt looked lovely with my bottle green uniform. Much better than boring old white. I don't always bring a sick note because I forget to ask Mum or Dad, and maybe just occasionally. I'm not exactly sick. I'm just staying off school because I've got fed up with it. No one knows. I pretend to Mum or Dad that I'm going to school, and I get on all the right buses, but I don't always get off at the right place. I slope about the town instead. Sometimes I go to the garden in Larkspur Lane, and Radish and I spend hours and hours there. She sails backwards and forwards across the lake, and then she treks through the jungle or climbs the north face of Mount Mulberry. Andrea, Miss Maynard, put her thin, wrinkly face close to mine. You've gone off into a daydream. For goodness sake, girl, you must stop this silly habit. I know things have been difficult for you at home. I haven't got a home any more. Mum and Dad... Yes, I know, and I do sympathise. But I can't help thinking you're making a rather unnecessary fuss. You know as well as I do that lots and lots of parents divorce and move house. It's very upsetting, but it's not the end of the world. We've been making allowances for you long enough, Andrea. Now it's time you started pulling yourself together. She gave my shoulders a little shake, as if she was really pulling me together. I felt that if she went on pulling, I'd go twang like an elastic. Mr. Roberts is old too, really old, with white hair and whiskers, but he still serves in his sweet shop, though he can't bend any more because he says his knees have gone. You can't see whether they really have gone or not because of his corduroy trousers. Bill the baboon doles out pocket money on Saturdays. I get it too when I'm around, and then we all go down to the road to the local shops. Paula's always fussing about her figure, so she doesn't go, and she doesn't go to Mr. Roberts' sweet shop. She buys tapes and magazines from the newsagents on the corner. Graham and Katie and I go to the sweet shop. Hello, my darlings, Mr. Roberts says, as soon as he sees us. He's always twinkling and stroking his beard. You expect him to go ho, ho, ho like Father Christmas. Graham is very shy with most people, but he gets quite chatty with Mr. Roberts. But it's Katie who is the favourite. Naturally. She twirls about the shop like a sugar-plum fairy, and Mr. Roberts chuckles and claps and calls her his little precious and his cute little sweetheart. He always lets her have a free go with his lucky bag, 5 pence a dip. He offers me a free go too, but I just stick my nose in the air and say no thanks. I have to buy my sweets and chocolate from him because there's nowhere else to get it, but I'm not going to make friends. Mr. Roberts and I are deadly enemies. The very first time I went into his shop with Graham and Katie, he looked me up and down, and then he whispered to Katie, "Who's the jolly green giant, then?" It was a loud whisper, and I heard. Katie sniggered and snorted, and even Graham smiled. He said later that Mr. Roberts just called me that because I was wearing my green school raincoat. Rubbish. It was a studied insult because of my size. The grannies and granddads are all old too. I can't stick any of them. I have my own nan and granddad, but they live in Canada with my auntie, so they're no use. Their dad's mum and dad. Mum and dad are dead, so they're no use either. It's not fair because Paula and Graham and Katie have got 2 full sets of grandparents, and they're always coming to see them. And Zen and Crystal have a granny and grandpa too. They aren't too bad because they took me to the zoo with them, and we all got ice cream and an animal colouring book. Paula and Graham and Katie's lot are awful. The baboon's parents are squat and hairy like him, even the granny. I'd hate to kiss her because she has a moustache. But the worst ones of all are the other gran and grandad. They used to help look after Paula and Graham and Katie after their mum died. They still come and visit a lot. They don't think much of my mum. They keep going on about the past and how devoted Bill was to his first wife, and Mum gets very pink in the face. They practically ignore her. And me. You will never believe this, but when they come on a visit, they always bring presents for Paula and Graham and Katie. Sometimes they're really big presents, new clothes or books or records. Sometimes it's just boxes of chocolates. But whatever it is, I don't get anything at all. Not a sausage. Mum got pinker than ever, pinker than my spoiled school shirts, and eventually I heard her ask the gran and grandad if they could include me in the present giving, so that I wouldn't feel left out. But Paula and Graham and Katie are our grandchildren, they said. Andrea's nothing to do with us. Well, good. Catch me wanting anything to do with them. And that is where we will leave part 4 of The Suitcase Kid by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back soon with the next part of this fantastic story and lots more stories and videos coming your way very soon. If you would like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated, guys. Hope you're well. Take care. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.